Finally, some good news, guys. I'm not sure if you can see, but I fixed the gimbal. So I fixed my InKee Falcon Plus. I think it's called a Falcon Plus gimbal. And this is the first video that I did on this gimbal because, well, when I received it, or shortly after I received it, I made a review video that I was quite happy with it. It's you know, it's working really good. This is the first time I'm having any gimbal like this, and it was just great. And then I haven't used it for some time, and then it just died. So the battery died. So it wasn't a physical issue, but it wouldn't pick up charge, and so I was pretty sure that the battery died. And I tried to get some, hold of InKee. Maybe they can help me, but I didn't really get anything besides the, the basic support of, try charging it with different chargers, and nothing really worked. So I thought, well, I can't really lose by trying to fix it. And as you can see, I managed to fix it. It took like 2 months because of various issues. But let me get to the chase, because there's going to be loads of, some additional content towards the end of the video that I did like a couple of months ago after I did the disassembly, because I wanted to document the process. So let me switch it off so it doesn't complain about being upside down. So there is an 18650 battery inside this main case, and in order to get to this battery, if you remove the mount, there is a screw here, so you have to unscrew that, and after that, this part where it has this thumb button and this back part should be removed. And it wasn't easy because everything is really tight. These plastics are not really soft plastics, very hard plastics. So what I had to do is I was, well, on this journey I thought that this is going to be all glued together. So I took out my heat gun and I started to just, heat up this whole place. I was hoping that the glue is going to give away, but actually there are clips inside. So you're going to see these clips later on in the footage or in the video. But what the heat gun helped me is that it softened up these plastics. So it was easier to get under this back part with a, like a scraper or a spudger or something. And then I was able to work my way through these seams and then basically unclip it. And then once I unclipped it, there was an 18650 battery inside here. It was the type of the battery which had the leads soldered onto it. So I just took an 18650 that I had lying around and I soldered leads, like short leads, on the terminals, because an 18650 battery holder wouldn't fit inside. So I threw out the old battery, I put a new one in. It was very clear on the PCB inside what are the positive and the negative terminals, and that was it. So, well, that should have been all of it. But because I didn't know how this thing works and how it disassembled, I thought that maybe I need to remove the gimbal itself, which was a problem, because although you can remove this gimbal, because there are like 3 screws here, there is also flat flex cable or ribbon cable inside that you have to unclip, because otherwise you won't be able to, remove this entire gimbal part. But again, it's not required. But because I have gone that far, I was in the situation where this whole gimbal was removed and I couldn't put it back properly together, because, obviously everything is really, really tight in there. And then this, ribbon cable just have enough space to go in, and it is very difficult to put everything back together. So this is why it took like two months, because, getting to the battery compartment and then changing the battery was, I was done in a couple of hours. But when I reassembled it, it wasn't working. It was charging, but then the gimbals were not working. And most probably because I didn't put the cable back properly. So the way I managed to fix it is basically I just taken apart a couple of times and I put it back together. And it looks like that I did manage to get it, did manage to put it back together after a couple of after, I don't know, 3rd or 4th times. I almost given up on this one. So that's it. So If you don't have any issues with the motor, I would suggest not to touch the gimbal part. Do not disassemble here. Definitely do not remove the flat flex because, or the ribbon cable, because it's just tight and it will be difficult to put it back together. But try to remove this back piece, and that's how you can get into the battery, which is just like a battery, which is held inside by kind of like plastic ribs, and that keep it in a place. And there is a PCB here which does all the control and everything. And then here you only have probably motors and some local control of those stepper motors, and that's it. But I managed to do it. So if you have any of these issues, I'm hoping that you would be able to fix yours. I mean, after all, it's an 18650, so you can just get any 18650 and then replace it with. And it is charging. As you can see, it is working. So I'm able to turn it on. Well, it doesn't turn on the GoPro at the moment, but anyway, you can see that, you can see that the main gimbal function works, and it does the gimbaling thing, and I'm happy. So now I'm going to show you the footage that I took like 2 months ago with a little even more like detailing on how it looks like disassembled, and hopefully that would help you as well if you ever need to do the same procedures as well. Before I show you too much disassembly, so what I have done is I have removed the gimbals because I thought this is what I need to do, because maybe I can slide the internal mechanism out or something. But what I really needed to do is replace the battery. So I replaced this gimbal, but it wasn't really necessary. But because I did that already, I thought I'm going to show you how it looks like in the internally. So if I need to fix something here in the gimbal part, at least you know how to take this apart. So let me just cover this first, and then we can look at the internals. So that was the first step, is to remove the, push away the gimbals, and then, which is like this, and then you can remove these 3 screws that you can see here. Okay, those. And once you have done that, this thing is not going to come apart, because if you look on the inside, there is a ribbon cable in here. And that ribbon cable goes into this connection. And I mean, this is a pain in the ass. That's a kind of connection where you need to you need to lift this flap, and that releases the cable. But then obviously the cable holds everything in here. So you really need to just lift this a little bit just in order to access that flap with a some sort of pointy device. And then you can just take it apart. So reassembling it is also going to be quite tricky, because you don't have an awful lot of cables like here. So you can see the ribbon cable there. I think what I can do is I can push on this felted pad, because I thought this felted pad is just the some sort of just to make it feel nicer, but actually the cable is inside here. So don't try to cut this away. It has double side adhesive on the other side, but don't try to cut it because it contains the cable. Oops, sorry. It contains the cable as well, so this felt thing. But if you push it here, that should push the cable in a little, and that should give you a little bit more room to maneuver. But as I said, in terms of the assembly, you just try to align it, push it in, and then with your third hand, important, because obviously you need one to hold this one in and the other one. So with your third hand, you will push down on this flap, which is going to secure the cable in place. And then of course you can screw in the 3 screws that you see there. So that's the top assembly, which, as I said, for the battery replacement is not really required. So let's go to the battery part. And that's how the internals look like. And as you can see, why I've already replaced the battery, but it comes with an 18650 battery, which has so this is the type which has the 2 wires soldered onto the terminals. And that's how the battery looks like. So obviously there was a felt cover in here, and it looks gross. So it looks like that something has leaked. I'm not really sure what can leak in a lithium battery, because it doesn't contain liquids like a NiCad battery. But anyway, something has leaked, and it's definitely an 18650, because here what I can read it's very small letters, but it says LCD 18650JA0 18C07 and 000688. I don't know whether the 688 is the capacity or not, but it was definitely dead. And if I try to put voltage on it, like if I like to charge it, it doesn't take up any charge. So internally it is, I guess it's rotted away and it is completely dead. So I have found a random 18650 cell. This is 18650, 2500 milliamp hours. It is a very trusted, unique fire brand. As I said, I was just, I don't have a lot of these at home. And I soldered 2 wires on each of the terminals, which again, I know you're not supposed to do because you're supposed to tack weld or spot weld to it, but I don't have a spot welder, so I soldered the wires onto it. And the pads are there, so it's quite straightforward. This one is marked as plus, so I just desoldered the old wires and soldered some new wires. And it is already working. I mean, it shows more sign of life than the previous one, because if I connect a charger and if I connect a battery meter to my power bank like this, is this in shot? Yeah, it is. And if I connect the battery, you see that it picks up charge. Not a lot. It's 170 milliamp hours, but it is definitely more than what it was doing before. And then the LED is how it was supposed to, work. So, these LEDs just go up as it is charging up the battery. So at least the internal battery charger is able to recognize this is as a lithium battery, and it just goes through the charging cycle. And I'm guessing because this battery was pretty much almost full, it has just lowered the charging current, because I think it goes all the way up to 500 milliamps, which this battery is definitely able to handle. So I'm not worried about that, but it is nearly full, so I guess it just lowered the charging voltage. And previously it was not showing these LEDs, like it was lighting up the first one, and then all 4 of them lit up, and then sort of like these 4 things were flashing. So it was definitely trying to indicate that something is wrong with the battery. But now it seems to be working. And let me just disconnect this, and let me continue with the disassembly. So that's how it all looked like. And obviously the only part that I needed to remove is this back cover plate. And I thought that this is held on by adhesive. So I started to melt it with my glue gun, because it is really, really difficult to get under it and get a grip. And maybe just by looking at this, you would have a better idea how to unclip it, because there are clearly clips on these molding. And I have pretty much managed to break all of these clips. You can see this one is broken, this one is broken, this one is not. This one is melted and mangled. This one is broken. This is the only one which is not broken. So this is a fairly stiff plastic. The alignment is very precise, and there are no big gaps. So I didn't have the proper tool. These are like sculpting tools, but I don't have proper tools. They didn't have proper tools to get into it, and by the looks of it, it looked like that it was glued. So this is why I brought the glue gun, and I started to glue. Sorry, not the glue gun, the heat gun, and I started to heat up this part, and that made this plastic pliable enough that I was able to get in this corner, and I started to wedge, and I noticed that the clips were unclipping, and I was just going all the way through it, both sides, and this is how I was able to remove the back plate. So it is not easy to remove, yeah, so that's one thing. But before you would try to do that, there is one more screw which is in here. You can't see it, it's removed at the moment, but there is a screw down there which actually holds this part in. So that is the screw hole, and I think that screw extends all the way down to here. So that is definitely required in order to separate this part. So first get this screw out. So if you only need to change the battery, get this screw out here, which is here, and then you can sort of like unclip this. If you are lucky, you will be able to get under it. If not, I would probably use the heat gun again in order to melt this area. And this piece of plastic also melts. Well, not melts, but it just becomes less rigid. So it gets a little bit easier to get under, you know, this corner, and then from there you can just unclip it. And yeah, so you can see the clipping points here. So it's nothing really special. Just as I said, it was just really difficult to get under it and then start this thing going. And I got the battery replaced, so it is soldered on. I think the solder joint is going to hold. So that's fine. I tested it. I can tag on these cables. It's fine. I put a couple of layers of Kapton tape on it, and it's just going to go back into like this. So there is no, you know, real place for this battery. I think these ribs are just going to keep this in place, and that's it. I just have to make sure that it's further down in this part of the case, so this battery is able to reach the battery. This button is able to push on this button, which is here. So the battery should be something like this, and probably you have to tag the wires in as well. So that's also in the lower part of the case. But the rest should clip back in. And if I have broken most of these clips, I think maybe I'm just going to use a dab of glue. At least I know how to disassemble it if I ever need to do it in the future. But that's it. You see there are some clips here as well. So maybe you can, if you can just unclip this section, you can lift this up and then it comes off like this. But yeah, too many clips and really rigid plastics. That was my main problem. So that will be all for today. Really happy now. But thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.